Here we go. Welcome back to CEO-ish. I'm Jill Donovan, and today we have an extra special guest. We have royalty in the house. We have the Minister of Fun, the founder of an empire, and your photo is next to the word enthusiasm in the dictionary. Please help me welcome Stan Clark. With our live studio audience, it makes it so much more exciting. Stan, thank you so much for being here.
Jill, thank you. That was a fun introduction. Minister of, what
Fun.
did you say? Minister of Fun? Wow.
Have you heard yourself called that before?
No, never. That is classic. I love it.
You didn't read the article I read right before. Minister of Fun is exactly what you are.
Well, that is really a high compliment because I've always said that creating a good time is really what we are. That's our mission. That's what we try to do. It's what we strive to do for, gosh, almost 45 years now. So that's really cool. In fact, a mutual friend of ours, Burns Hargis, spoke to my management team one time right after he took the job on of being president of Oklahoma State University. And he, one of the first things he said to our group was, gosh, I've been really studying you all to get ready for this presentation today. And he said, I think your core competency is fun. He says, I think you're having fun. And when he left, I told everybody, I said, gosh, I didn't prompt him. I told him to speak on anything you want. But the fact that he could figure out what we're all about really meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
And the next thing that came to my mind was, and by the way, if you're not fun, you're fired. And we've kept that mantra.
Yeah.
And people, it's interesting how many of our team members come up to me and say, and I am fun. And they will remind me how fun they are. So.
For the maybe 3 or 4 people that don't know who Stan Clark is, Stan is the founder of Eskimo Joe'S, which Eskimo Joe'S started 45 years ago as a little
beer joint.
And I believe beer was selling back then, correct me if I'm wrong, for 30 cents a bottle.
That's correct.
30 cents a bottle. The same person who called you Minister of Fun also told me that it was 30 cents a bottle.
Well, actually, it was 30 cents a draw, and it was 45 cents a bottle. You had to be a big spender to go for a long neck, you know.
Now, this was an idea that you and a friend came up with.
That's correct.
In your what year of OSU?
Well, I have to actually give him all the credit. My original partner's name is Steve File, a Tulsa guy like me, and we met each other on the first day of 5th grade, and we went all through, the rest of elementary school, junior high, high school together, graduated from Memorial High School, and we both went to OSU, and 4 years later...
And what were you studying, by the way?
I was a business major.
Okay.
I had a general administration degree from the College of Business. I did graduate in May of 1975, and 2 weeks after graduation, it was a Sunday afternoon, I remember it like it was yesterday, I'm laying on a couch, not unlike that one right there, and watching reruns of Star Trek. And Steve walks in, he goes, hey Clark, I'm going to open a bar. He said, man, all the bars around here are doing great. And I said, well, File, that's a cool idea. You know, I'll go in partners with you. I know there's this groovy little 2-story building for rent.
But what were you doing at this time? Working somewhere? When he came in to tell you this, did you have a job yet?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. I like it. Ambition.
2 weeks.
Okay.
2 weeks after graduation. Hey, you know what? I heard. Sorry, I'm going to go everywhere, but
Let's do it.
So Barry Switzer, I remember his telling the story that when he got called by Jerry Jones and asked if he would coach the Dallas Cowboys, he said he was laying on the couch. So anyway,
I'm going to go lay down for just a second. Good things happen when you're laying down, apparently.
But anyway,
So, I like that story.
so anyway, I'm laying there. We jump in File's 1953 Chevy, which is what he was driving. So think about that, 22-year-old car. But his home was at 303 South Ramsey. You were talking about being in the McKnight Center.
Right.
Well, the McKnight Center is on that property. So we just, round the corner on University, down Knobloch, turn right on Elm, and there we are. And I always say, as fate would have it, the owner of that building was there then. Had he not been, I don't think we'd have ever gone back. I don't have any idea what I would have done, because within 10 minutes, we'd agreed to rent the building. And voila, that is the inception of Eskimo Joe'S.
The two of you just went up and asked him if you could rent the building.
Well, like I said, thank goodness he was there. He said, well, look around, boys. And the negotiation was so intense. He said, "Fellas, if you want it just like you see it, it's $350 a month. If you want me to put an air conditioner in, I need $400."
And what did you know about running a beer joint when you were 21? I mean, I know you knew beer, but what did you know about running a beer joint?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I actually worked at Ken's Pizza for 9 months in my, I think it was a sophomore year at Oklahoma State. And in that 9 months, I really learned more about how to interact with a customer, how to be hospitable, if you will, probably than I did in 4 years of college of business.
Yeah.
And it's no knock on the business education by any means. I couldn't have gotten a loan, wouldn't have understood financials. I wouldn't have been able to done a pro forma, convince a banker to loan me some money to get started at age 22. My dad encouraged me to think entrepreneurially from the time I was just a kid. So I always thought I was going to work for myself. And as I went through the College of Business, I was always thinking about how I would apply the principles I was learning to my own business. But I had no idea it was going to happen at age 22. But I do think without that backdrop, when Steve said, "Hey, I'm going to open a bar," I'd probably go, "Yeah, right, give me a beer," and stay and finish that excellent episode of Star Trek. But no, I jumped up. I said, "Hey, I'll go in partners with you."
So from there, how long, once you decided to rent the building, take me just through the next year really quickly, what that process was until it really got going.
Well, we got open in July, so it took us a couple of months to do the remodeling. The interesting thing there was I have zero carpentry skills or any sort of engineering abilities, but Steve was a much braver guy than I was, and a lot more different skill sets. We actually just kind of drew out on the floor of that place where we wanted things to be, and we built the bar ourselves. We built the little, they still exist up in the front windows of the original building. We built those little platforms, and I love to tell this story. We bought these half-sawn logs from a guy named Eddie Gilbert in Coweta, Oklahoma, and those logs cost us 50 cents a piece. In just 5 short years, I'm going to have those logs fully depreciated. So it's just kind of amazing, Anyway, it's funny how I can tell you all the details of 45 years ago, and I can't really remember who I rode over here with.
Or what we had for lunch.
Oh yeah, Emily and Michaela. I do actually remember that.
I get it. So you got this. You redesigned the space to your liking enough for a beer joint.
Yeah.
And then why Eskimo Joe's?
That's another great question, and the honest answer is that was also Steve's idea. Brilliant idea.
Somebody call Steve and get him in for an interview next week.
I didn't love the name, but every time we would discuss names, Steve would go into this chant, "Eskimo Joe's, Eskimo Joe's." All of our friends would join in, and so what I remembered about marketing really was that you needed to be able to cut through clutter, okay? Or you had to do something that would stand out. I thought, well, at least it's weird. What in the world does Eskimo Joe's mean in Stillwater, Oklahoma? But thankfully, I was 22.
Yeah.
Kind of a marketing guru, really. I had 3 hours of marketing at Oklahoma State, right? So anyway, what I remembered from my principles of marketing class, the only one I ever took, was that we needed a logo. Yeah. That symbol that would conjure up our business in the hearts and minds of our customers with or without the name attached, So we thought, well, we got to get a logo. So where are we going to get one? Steve's younger brother, Russell, says, "Hey, I know a guy. He's from California. His name's Bill Thompson. He's a freshman commercial arts student. I know he could do it." Okay, call Bill. So Bill drives up. He's driving a VW bus with California plates. His hair's all the way down his rear. He looked like an artist to me. And sure enough, he was. And he rendered the only logo that was ever rendered, drawing ever rendered for our logo. It's Eskimo Joe and Buffy.
And why Buffy?
Well, that's another great story. We had t-shirts for sale day one.
Okay.
And in the first week or so after we'd opened, a young lady came up and she bought our shirt. And she said, "Hey guys, what's the dog's name?" Steve and I kind of looked at each other. I still don't remember which one of us blurted out Buffy.
I'd say you.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
Take some
thanks.
credit. So you just said Buffy.
Yeah, because nothing so far has been my idea, right?
Right. Let's for the rest of this podcast, let's make it your idea.
Okay.
So you just blurted out Buffy?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know any Buffys?
I do not.
Do you know, we grew up watching Buffy on, what show was
Family
it?
Affair.
Family Affair, Buffy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Buffy. That's the only Buffy I know. What I really love is that there's not this like rich history in why you named it what you named it. It's organic, which is really how everything then flowed from that point on.
Well, it made perfect sense to me once I laid eyes on the logo. It was a fit. I loved the logo. Here's the funny thing about it. I go, oh man, that is awesome. What do you think, Steve? And he goes, it's all right. So the management lesson, leadership lesson in that is we were extremely different individuals.
Yeah.
And we were so much stronger as partners because we weren't alike. I had a skill set. I was kind of the hospitality guy, minister of fun.
Yes,
I
yes.
like that new title.
Yes.
But Steve, we wouldn't have been able to have done it without Steve. I mean, he was just bolder and he was just ready to go. Here we
The
go.
way a marriage is supposed to work.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, opposites. So then you started with T-shirts, by the way. You said when you first started.
We did. We fortunately, some guys came by. We hadn't even got the place open yet, and they said, "You guys ought to print your logo on some T-shirts." And I have to thank my parents again on this one. They took me to Hawaii on a convention when I was in college, and we found a place over there called Crazy Shirts, and I bought some T-shirts and wore them kind of the rest of my college days, if you will. But had it not been for that, I'm not sure we would have even kind of caught on to it. Printed sportswear was not hardly even going at that point. So it was real new. And thank goodness we did. I remember we ordered 72 shirts. 3 dozen of them were light blue. 3 dozen of them were kind of a goldish yellow color. The print was in one color. But that's how it was designed. It was designed with a magic marker on this huge art pad. So such a simple design like that recreates beautifully in one color.
Wow. And you sold them really fast.
We sold them the first week. Couldn't
week.
believe it.
Yeah.
There was this very entrepreneurial young woman who sat up in the front window at Joe's every afternoon, and when people would buy a shirt, she'd kind of, get them to come over here, and she was charging $1, and she was painting Buffy's tongue red. She was making more money on the shirts than we were.
Wow.
T-shirts were $3.75, and you got a free beer with them.
With the T-shirt?
Yeah.
Wow. Now this is 1975.
1975.
Goodness. And then you and Steve stayed together for how long?
We were partners for 2.5 years,
Okay.
and Steve met a young woman at Eskimo Joe'S actually that he fell in love with, and was married and just kind of needed to change lifestyle and wanted to kind of move along with his life. And I just believed in my heart of hearts that we had something going that was very special. I knew we were really connecting with our customers, and I just felt like it was something I could grow with. And I was a lot more interested in working the bar business, honestly, than Steve was. He was very entrepreneurial, like I said, much more bolder really than I was, and he wanted to move on and do a lot of other things and just let somebody manage that business. And I just kind of liked it. I just wanted to run it. I wanted to do it. So very natural dissolution of the partnership. It was probably the right way when things go. Nobody knew for sure who got the better deal.
Yeah.
Everybody, I think, thought it was a fair deal. And
I'd say you did.
it was a tiny, tiny business when I bought
Sure.
it.
Sure. At what point did you know that this was something that had some staying power?
I felt like I knew that right away. Just that there was a connection. People really liked the place. And in fact, the ultimate affirmation to me was if they bought a T-shirt.
Yeah.
That just meant the world to me.
Because they
I was
wanted
so
to wear
excited.
you.
Well, and then I knew that it was going to conjure up word of mouth advertising.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that? Well, it's a fun little bar in Stillwater, Well, what is about that? Well, it's a funky little place. The music's great. It's just fun.
So let me hit pause on that for a second. Because you needed to hire people, obviously.
Right.
Did you do all of your initial hiring?
We hired our first team member out of the first night's crowd.
Okay.
It's just 30 feet from the front door to the bar. And, I'm just watching her walk, and I punch Steve. Steve, maybe that could be a team member. And so she gets to the bar and, kind of muster up the courage to say, hey, how would you like to maybe work here? And she just sort of stepped back with this unbelievably groovy classy pause, and she just sort of said, "Well, Stan, I might think about working for you and Steve." And I was just like,
But I'm 16.
"What?"
He's laughing because it's true.
No, I don't think that's quite true. But so, we're taken aback. How does she know who we are? So her father coached me when I was playing 8th grade basketball, and she was in grade school at the time. So, she was like 4 years behind Steve and I, but obviously she changed a lot since grade school. But the reason I really like to tell that story the most is that she worked for us for over 2 years. And I think that just speaks to the fact that I understood from the get-go how important people were going to be. Mm-hmm. And again, that goes back to the way my dad raised me, and he just talked about all the time about his company was only as good as his people, and and that is just so true. And I did get that. I knew that was going to be important. I remember we just told her, people walk in, we want to make them feel welcome, like they're walking in your home. Just make them feel welcome and special. And we're show them a good time. Yeah. And that's what it's all about.
But how do you impart what is just inherent and is just natural for you to, how many employees do you have now?
About 400 right now.
How do you impart what you know needs to happen the minute somebody walks through the door? How do you impart that to 400 and a lot of college kids, right? I mean, they're
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a lot of things in place, obviously, today that we didn't have back then. But the way I do it personally is we conduct what we call Smiles 101 with everybody that we hire. And that's just an opportunity for us to share our history and just to share our vision of greatness, and just really it's a chance to set the expectation of really what we need, what we're all about, and what we just have to have people do. There's a huge White House study done back in the 80s, and it said that 68% of people quit a business when they encounter an attitude of indifference on the part of a team member. Mm. So the idea is we've got to be present. We've got to be there. We've got to truly, genuinely engage our customers with empathy and just be willing to do whatever it takes to delight the guest. Our mission statement is super simple: to delight every guest by giving my best. And we wrote it in first person because as a young person is hired, I wanted to read it and I wanted to own it. I tell them, treat those guests like you're me, like you own this place.
Yeah.
That's what I want everybody to do, is to own these values and own this approach. And this isn't rocket science, just be nice.
Yeah.
Be nice.
Were you always like this? Or did you have something that happened to make you like this over the years? Or was just as a young child, were you always happy and ministering fun?
Well, I might have been a little bit. And my mom really is where I got this spirit and this positivity. She is just the nicest, sweetest, most, she's just the best. Yeah. And, she always used to say, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Oh, yeah. And she lived that. I mean, I've never heard her belittle another person or say anything behind anybody's back. And it's just such a cool thing. So I've kind of always had that spirit. I've always been happy. Yeah. And, you said something early on was true. I had a beer or two before we opened that place. So I kind of knew that was fun, and two was funner than one, and
three was even better than two.
So all of that was very natural.
Let me ask you, throughout the 45 years, obviously it has not been all roses. Tell me about a time throughout the last 45 years that maybe not that you wanted to give up, but the time you learned the most in the hardest times.
Absolutely.
What was the greatest lesson that you learned in the hardest time over the last 45 years?
Wow, I've got so many of those bruises, I don't know. The first one I'll talk about is when they changed the drinking age from 18 to 21.
And what year was that?
That was a real trauma. They changed the law in the fall of 1983. Back then, Tulsa had two newspapers, the Tulsa World and the Tulsa Tribune. Yeah. I remember the Trib called me and said, hey, we want to come over and do a story about this changing beer law and how it's going to affect your business. I said, all right, come on over, So they took this picture of me and they said, now, wipe that smile off your face. You need to look really glum because that doesn't fit the story. I said, well, this is who I am. But okay, I kind of tried to look sad. I got a beer in front of me. But they came up with the greatest cut line. It says, new beer law chills tavern owners. But the story was, so bottom line, this ain't gonna work anymore
Yeah.
because
It's college town.
yeah, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, that's kind of your freshman, sophomore, junior years. Most kids weren't gonna be able to come in until they're seniors. So I just really, was sweating it and trying to figure out what to do. And really, necessity being the mother of invention, I decided maybe the only way to leverage the existing trade name and the existing facility was to add a kitchen to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what forced us into food service.
Had you thought about that before they changed the law or it forced you?
All I could think about it, even in the face of this, was I don't want to screw up this great business by
Yeah.
being a bad restaurant.
Yeah.
Restaurants risky, restaurants hard, restaurants, real hours.
Yeah.
We didn't have to open till 2 o'clock
Right.
when you're a bar.
Right.
We could stay up pretty late.
And so by yourself, this venture now, it's like starting a brand new business almost because you had not gone into food at all, right? It was
We had not. We had a little pot in the back, a crock pot kind of a deal, and I'm sure y'all know the recipe: Velveeta cheese and Rotel tomatoes.
We've got some for you after the
we
podcast.
had a little dab of queso at one
Yeah.
point in time, but anyway, no, we weren't in food service. So to go from beer joint to full service restaurant, even with the simplest menu, we went from 13 employees to 45 just overnight. I didn't really know anything about restaurants. Hired a guy that had a restaurant degree, but he was just a young, fun, crazy guy, just like I was. And he hired a guy by the name of Robert Williams, who is still our director of restaurant operations, 36 years with me now.
Wow.
But here's the cool thing. We got the kitchen open in 1984, and I was thrilled to find out in 1984 that more people actually eat every day than drink every day.
That's
Any
amazing.
idea of
Yeah.
that. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
That's your aha moment.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So actually there was a lot of demand for that.
Right.
And what was cool about it is more people came in, enjoyed our hospitality, had a good time there. They
Families.
too might want a souvenir or like a t-shirt. So not only did it just grow the heck out of
Yeah.
the core business, the shirt sales just went off the charts after that. So what looked like it was going to kill us was the best thing that ever happened to us.
Wow, that's great. And that's a great lesson for everybody in business. The thing that you think is going to kill you is the thing that makes you the strongest.
You never know.
Yeah. Were there any moments, because this is a lot for you now. I mean, this is many, many years of having to switch, having to pivot, having to continue to evolve. Were there any moments that, as I've never seen you not smile, ever. When I say minister of fun, it's really true. But are there ever any moments, what is it that will make your smile turn around? What over the last, I mean, I know there are hard times, but
sure.
Is there anything that really disappoints you?
Well, if we're just talking about, downturns in business or bad business decisions or just, when things don't work, it's stressful. It's just more fun when it's working. That's all there's to it. Talking about basketball earlier, it's a lot more fun when you win.
Absolutely.
In business, it's real. It's hurtful.
Yeah.
We opened our third restaurant in 1987, Mexico Joe's, after having moved our second restaurant downtown into a new facility. Got a great deal on that building because it was kind of after the oil bust of the early 80s and kind of got a bargain on that, and that was neat. But I had to open a third one. And when we first opened Mexico Joe's, that just about broke me. And I mean, that was at the absolute, probably lowest point in my professional life. 1987. I remember the summer of 87, I was actually meeting payroll by taking cash advances on credit cards.
Wow.
And that's not just for Mexico Joe's. That's for Eskimo Joe's. That's for Eskimo Joe's Clothes. That's for everything I had going at the time, Stillwater Bay. I remember a young lady that was working at the bank one day, was a server at night at Stillwater Bay, which was basically kind of right next door to Stillwater National Bank. And back then, you had to get on the phone to get approval for a cash advance. And I see her, she's talking to somebody, credit card. What I didn't see, she kind of slid the drawer open to her desk, and boom, my credit card disappears, and the company had instructed her to get possession of that credit card and take it away. Now she's probably thinking, I'm not getting another paycheck from Stillwater Bay, right? So anyway, you're so right, and it's not just this meteoric rise, with no hiccups and whatever else.
Did you think you were going to get through with your 12th year?
I wasn't sure if I was, to be honest. I remember we took a family vacation that year. Mom, Dad, sister and brother-in-law, we went to Mexico. And I just felt so sorry for my dad, but the whole time we were there, I was just being in his ear, Dad, what am I going to do? One strategy we came up with was local cable television avails had just come on the scene.
Okay.
You could advertise on CNN, I think might have been a network then, ESPN was brand new. Some cable networks, and that was kind of a new thing. So we started a TV advertising campaign where I just looked you right in the eye. I went to Wichita, Kansas, did green screen and to look you in the eye and say, if this isn't the best Mexican food you've ever had, I'll buy. It's free. It's on me. And so, the guy that was selling me the ads, he's driving me up there in his little compact car. And he kind of looks at me and goes, "Now, Clark, are you sure you want to say that?" Like I'm thinking, so Bill, you mean you don't like my food?
Right.
But, not that many people called us on it. Of course, here's the deal. We've had an unconditional guarantee on everything we sold from the first day I was in business. But I'd never positioned it that strongly.
Wow.
But that's not what turned it around. What turned it around was great trained people that executed the plan. The recipes are delicious. The food was great.
Yes.
But we started early. We were understaffed. We were undertrained. It's a huge life lesson to learn. But anyway, the good news was in 1988 we broke even. In 1987 later, we opened Joe's Clothes World headquarters right next door to Joe's. Thankfully, honestly, the opening that clothes store is what saved the whole company.
Yeah.
And shirt sales were going off the charts. The next
Amazing store.
The next year, thank you. The next year, the Tulsa World wrote that we were one of the most collectible shirts in the country behind Hard Rock. That helped a whole lot.
And then President Bush
Oh man, what a guy!
came to do the commencement.
Yes, in 1990.
Right.
George H.W. Bush, president number 41.
Did you know he was going to mention your name?
I did not, but you know what he said?
Tell me.
I wish Barbara could be with me here. She did tell me to get a beer and some cheese fries over at Eskimo Joe's.
Wow.
Wow.
And how many people were there?
Hoping at the same time they have enough t-shirts for all the grandchildren. Wow. Rest assured they got the t-shirts.
Wow.
And think about it. That was like Jenna Bush.
Yeah.
That was W's kids and
Yeah.
Jeb's kids anyway. That was
And you
amazing.
were you there at that?
I was. And I was jumping up and down and bouncing off the walls. My parents called me. Our friends are calling us from all over the country. Did you hear what the president said? Did you hear what the president said? Oh, it was.
Did you meet him after that?
Not there.
Okay.
But Michaela and I actually got to meet him one time. We
Wow.
sure did. He spoke in Oklahoma City, and we had access to a behind the scenes deal. Mrs. Bush also spoke on campus one time, and we found out where she was staying, and we sent her this welcome gift to Stillwater. And it was in '96, and that was the first year that Eskimo Joe ran for president. We had all these cute, things like buttons and all this stuff. And she came out. She had on this gorgeous blue blazer with huge black lapels of Chanel. It was really very beautiful. And she looked out there and she said, "I'm surprised so many of you students are here on a Friday night. I thought you'd all be over at," she pulls this lapel back, "Eskimo Joe's." And she had that campaign button on. And thankfully, an OSU photographer was right up on it with a zoom lens. And so we had that.
That's
So
amazing.
I've got beautiful letters back from them. It's just.
But those
these
kind of things
you
are
can't-
unexpected.
Oh, and you just can't.
They come out of the blue, and
you
what
can't buy it.
Yeah, you can't buy it. You can't. I mean, the thing is, when you try to buy something like that, it doesn't work.
It wouldn't work anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to ask you a couple questions that for people that know you but don't really know you.
Okay.
Okay. Just tell me really quick, a typical day in the life of Stan Clark. What time do you wake up?
Oh, like this morning, 5 till 6. And just kind of take care of the dogs first, make sure the kids are awakened at their, prescribed times, and then take the kids to school.
And how old are your kids?
We have twins, Gabby and Hudson,
Okay.
who are 15 years old, and they're in 9th grade.
Okay.
And McGuire, our older daughter, is 17, and she's a junior at Stillwater High School.
Okay. So you get them all ready.
Yeah.
And then do you go to the office every day?
I do.
Is the office for you the office, or are you going around? And I mean, you're so social that I don't see you in an office all day.
I'm not great at office.
Yeah.
It's such a mess. It's always a joy just to get away from it, to be honest.
You need an assistant.
I have a wonderful
His
assistant.
assistant is here.
I have a wonderful assistant. But I you know, it does take a lot to administer a company the size of ours. But you know, I have a lot of freedom to move around
Sure.
and do whatever seems appropriate. Like today, you know,
Yeah.
can't tell you how much I look forward to today.
I was surprised that you had enough time today to come here.
Oh gosh, it was a joy. Couldn't
Yeah.
wait to come. Couldn't
Yeah.
wait to come.
We gave Stan a little birthday party today, and he didn't even know it was his birthday. He didn't know we were going to do that. So Stan, if you want to get away in the afternoon or evening just to recharge yourself, what is it that you do?
Well, I'm a music nut, so music is always something special to me, and I really love concerts, of course. Gosh, my wife and I have been all over the country, chasing all kinds of fun concerts. Before we had kids, you know, we were kind of that couple that anybody could call in the last minute, and we were always in.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the last 17 years have been very different,
Sure.
but you know, that empty nesting thing's not that far around the corner, so maybe we can ratchet some of that back up.
Do you get time alone?
Time
Do
alone.
you enjoy time alone, or do you get it?
I don't have a lot of time alone, and I don't particularly seek that out. I will say, you know, from time to time, maybe the family goes to McAllister and sees Shannon's side of the family, and maybe I'm asked to stay home with the dogs. You know, it's not the worst thing in the world to have an evening all to
And
yourself.
lay on the couch and see what happens.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
You never know.
What is, so I like to ask questions that are not normal, so just hang with me here. Okay?
Sure.
If you were going to go to the top of a mountain and yell something down to everybody below in the valley, and whether it was something advice or just your mantra, what would that be, that one phrase, sentence, word that Stan Clark would yell at the top of his lungs to everybody?
Wow, what a great question.
Wow, what a great question!
Standing on the top of a mountain.
Tell something to the whole world.
Obviously would be so awesome. You know, you'd have to be thinking about your maker and, you know, just the glorious world we live in, and, you know, our Savior. And to me, that would be religious, and it would be something in that vein.
Okay. Do you have something like on your bucket list that has stayed there for a long time that you haven't done and you're determined to do it before the end of this life?
Whew. I've got so much I still need to do before the end of this life, but I don't have anything that's, you know, that's just
A place to go.
yeah, not really.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of golf destinations that do intrigue me. You know, it would be something to actually play at Augusta National, for example,
Yeah.
or to play at Sea Island, or, you know, I've had the good fortune of actually playing at Pebble, and that stuff's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I do like golf.
I was at Sea Island last weekend.
Were you
Never
really?
been there before.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was. I didn't golf, but it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Never been to that part. I'm sure you have a lot of college students that come up and say this phrase: "Can I get some time with you to pick your brain?"
I've heard that.
Yes.
I've heard that.
And because so many want to be entrepreneurs and look up to you, how do you handle with so many people coming and wanting your time?
Well, it's, you know, if and when I can, I do enjoy it. I will admit I dodge sometimes just for scheduling reasons, but Emily would attest. Every time I accept, I always go, "Oh, I'm so glad I did that. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so glad."
Yes.
How many times have we heard
Yeah.
that? So,
Yeah.
you know, it's always fun. It's just a matter of, you know, can you actually make it happen?
Absolutely.
I can't help somebody write every paper. You know.
But if I'm a college student and I say, "Stan, what is the number one piece of advice you would give to me that I can carry with me for the next decade?" What is it that Stan tells them?
Well, I just tell them to do something that they actually enjoy. You know, hospitality very natural to me. I just feel so blessed to do something that I actually, just enjoy. It's just fun to me. It's natural to me. So I think that's a big deal. But as much as anything, you just give it your all, whatever it is that you're doing. And if it doesn't turn out to be exactly what you wanted, still just learn to give all you've got to whatever it is you're doing, and great things will happen. That's just the way it works, just to dog along and not do your best. There's just no way you can feel good about yourself doing that. So
I tell my kids to be
just
so good that the world can't ignore you, whatever it is that you're doing, because you don't know who's watching.
That's right.
Or how that is going to lead to the next step that you're supposed to do.
I totally love that advice. It's excellent.
What is the last great book that you read?
Oh gosh, the last great book I read was a title called "What Got You Here Won't Get You There," and it's really good. It's by a really smart, sophisticated business consultant, and that's one that I just have around all the time, and I will go back to it. I think the one book, business book particularly, that probably had the greatest impact on me, and this happened back in the late 80s, was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that is a book that I not only read, I did some studies with other business guys around our community. We actually followed Stephen Covey's philosophy of, hey, to best learn, teach. We taught habits to each other's teams throughout the various companies that were represented, and that one really kind of was a game changer for me. And it's just easy to embrace those habits. It just makes so much sense to me that I just thought it was really good.
Tell me 2 of those habits.
Be proactive.
Okay.
And that's just, we can all choose what we're however we're going to react, right? It's the so many different ways to say it, but we can't determine where the wind's going to come from, but we can adjust the sail. Bottom line, we can react to whatever comes at us, however we choose to react.
Right.
Only humans have that ability. Animals just, it's what do they call that? They can't help it.
My dog can, but no.
Good for you. Good for you. The other one I would say is seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Yeah.
And that was a principle my dad taught me from the time I was just a kid. Again, he said, try to understand any situation from the other person's perspective. And that's how he said it. Stephen Covey says, seek first to understand, then to be understood. But if you can just put yourself in the other party's shoes, it just sure can disseminate things. Plus, if you'll give somebody psychological error and the chance to just tell you what they think, and if you reflect that back to them and they really believe, truly believe you've listened to them, by then things are a little calmer.
I love that. Who is your hero?
My hero? I'd have to say my dad.
Yeah.
I've referred to him so often. He was in the pipeline contracting business. And so, he didn't know he was doing this, but he was modeling how to run a great company the whole time I was growing up. And, just the way he interacted with his team. He was on the phone constantly, and he was just supporting everybody in that company. And then his supplier partners were heavy equipment salesmen, and they were the funnest guys that I'd ever met in my life. I still remember all their jokes, and I still tell them, when I can. And pretty colorful, if you can imagine pipeliners.
Oh yeah.
But then, so he loved his people, and he loved his supplier partners, but also the way my mom and he treated their customers all over the country. It was just, so our vision of greatness is all about just that, how we're going to interact with each other, our team, how we're going to interact with our guests, and how we work with our supplier partners. So, I didn't realize that. I was just a kid, but it's what I observed and what I watched. So I just, I just get a little older, I just reflect so much more, and I just realized that everything I've done, everything I've stood for, and the way I've tried to run our companies, I was just modeling my dad.
When we talk about companies that do what they do with excellence and that are known for that, there are very few that come to mind. one being Chick-fil-A,
Yeah.
Disney World, and Eskimo Joe's. And the reason I know this is because I've met so many of the people that work for you and in your promotional products, Eskimo Joe's promotional products group. They are all, they go by what I have wanted for so long, to have a job that you feel is your get-to job. They wake up and say, I get to do this. And I think that's why people love working for you, because for them it doesn't feel like a job, because it's just joy. And how lucky they are to get to be in a company like yours, that not only do they get to learn and earn a paycheck, but the days don't feel like work days. They're not dreading the work. Their weekdays seem like they're the same as the weekends. And I know Mikhail, who heads up your promotional products group, and she is she's an example of what all those, how everybody that works for you, how what you have done is instilled in them such a joy for it, that they have a different perspective than I think other people do in other companies, where it is a have-to job.
Well, that's the greatest compliment you could ever give me, and you're referring to the sweetest, most dedicated, and hardest working person I've ever known.
True.
That's Mikhail Reed.
Yeah.
Almost makes me tear up because I love her so much. But thank you. It's a great compliment.
Yeah.
And you did something for EJPPG that meant so much. First of all, you packed the house at our big show one time, and that was amazing. And thank you for that. But even more touching to me was when you came and sat with about 18 people, and it was so personal, and you gave so much of yourself. And it's experiences like that that make people feel like what you're describing. And so thank you for that, because that was special.
Well, the day that I came, thank you for that. The day that I came to speak to the group at your annual conference, is that right?
Yeah, we call it Client Day, but it's our Client Appreciation Day, and we invite clients from all over this part of the country, and we have suppliers from all over the country, and it's a big deal.
Well, we were talking about this earlier, Jordan. You were talking when we drove up. Jordan, you came up in a golf cart, and she said she thought you were a parking lot worker. She didn't know. She thought you were the nicest person, and you came up to help us figure out where to park and then directed us where to walk. But she thought you were a parking lot worker, which is a testament to who you are. You are not above anything, and you never have been. I see you. You walk around and talk to people, and even though you have 400 employees, I know that if you could, you would know every detail about all of them and their lives, and call them all by their first name if that was possible for 400 of them. But that is so rare, Stan. We know that's rare because people are writing countless books to teach other people how to do that, and it doesn't happen regularly at all.
Well, like I said, my dad modeled that, and he had a lot of other principles we don't have time to go into, but
was he a beer drinker?
No, actually, he was kind of a Scotch drinker.
Yeah, that's your next venture. Yeah.
But we did have a bar in the home.
Yeah.
So my ultimate occupation, we didn't fall too far from the tree.
But you liked beer when you opened up. I
did like the beer, yes.
So I wanted to ask you, why did you decide not to expand into other neighboring states? Because I know that had to have been a thought, or a lot of other people's thoughts.
Sure. Well, we get approached all the time. Would we be willing to franchise? Real estate people call all the time. We got the perfect spot for the next Eskimo Joe'S.
We get that too.
But I'm kind of it occurred to me a long time ago. My goal was never to be the biggest, but I wanted to be special. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to really matter to our customers, and we just decided a long time ago that we'd never be the home team again like we were in Stillwater. It was just so organic, and it just grew from 900 square feet, just a little bitty bar, that I don't know. It just really, I've just abandoned that whole idea a long time ago. We've been able to do fun things, off the brand, and the bar and the restaurant created a retail standalone company. I mean, we present to the public as one. You go to Eskimo Joe'S, but it's actually two different companies with two different management teams, and we're really kind of in two different industries. today Mexico Joe's still exists, and it's just doing great. Had the best year they've ever had
Wow.
just last year in 2019, and that's 33 years in. So I'm very,
Wow.
very happy and proud for that.
That's
The
awesome.
one that almost broke me. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go back and remind it.
Exactly.
So that's cool. And then Eskimo Joe's Promotional Products Group. It's the last one. There's going to be a game Saturday in Stillwater, and they're going to celebrate the 25th anniversary of our trip to the Final Four. And that trip to the Final Four was in Seattle. And we did a little T-shirt called "Toothless in Seattle" that year. That's the biggest, craziest, wildest thing we ever tried. And in fact, it's really the birth child of Eskimo Joe's Promotional Products Group. Because after that, we had to use every screen printer we could contact and get to help us. We had people standing in line to buy shirts in Tulsa and Oklahoma City and Stillwater that hadn't been printed yet. And so we got to build a bigger print shop. We got to be ready for the next Toothless. And we did that. We opened it in the spring of 1998. And pretty quickly, I realized we can't create this much demand.
Yeah.
And so, really, that's when Eskimo Joe's Promotional Product was born in 2002. Was to leverage that huge facility and all that screen printing capacity that we had, and graphics, art design, expertise, etc. And so, 17 years later, EJPPG is the biggest company we've got.
That's
So
amazing.
it's
But
been a fun ride.
as an entrepreneur, do you still have that yearning inside of you to create new and different, or do you just want to keep protecting?
I still am driven to try and just see where it goes. We certainly, we're not the craziest. I don't have these huge goals on the wall. We're going to hit this number or that and the other. What I'm concerned about is delighting every guest by giving our best. If it's in the promotional products division, it's just becoming so important and so invaluable to our clients that they demand people use us. That they don't just refer us; they're telling that these people are amazing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm about. And I think if we continue to take care of those little things, that the big things take care of themselves.
But the key to that is having the leaders that can implement what your heart is. And you do have that, because I've experienced that with the promotional products group. We're committed for life. That's how we feel. And we're just one of thousands and thousands of people. So it's finding the right people
Right.
to implement your heart for that.
Well, I always say, that really everything we do is about that interaction with the customer, whatever level, if it's at retail, if it's in the restaurant, or if it's with a client in promotional products. The key thing is how we make you feel.
Yeah.
And we got to win hearts and minds, and we just, that's what I'm all about. And if we continue to execute at that level, I really do. I think top line takes care of itself. I think bottom line takes care of itself. Sure, there's a lot of details. There's a lot to manage, and there's a lot to try to keep going. And you do have to be profitable. I mean, hey,
That's important.
there's nothing wrong with profit.
No.
There's nothing wrong. I mean, that's what our great economy is based on. Is without it, we can't do anything.
Yeah.
I can't employ people. Can't give back. I can't do any of the kind of the higher level things that you really aspire and enjoy doing the most. But cash flow's king.
Yeah.
I mean, without it, you can just go right off a cliff. So
Yeah.
it is very, very important to be successful. I remember Dr. Halligan, when he was president, he talked about moving beyond success to significance, and I've never heard that couched that way. But I loved what he said. I thought it made so much sense. But really, the success has to come first. It
Yeah.
has to.
Well, I always, there's a lot of people who are behind the scenes that aren't seen. You have your servers, and then you have your bartenders, but you have a lot of people who are behind the scenes that you have to instill the same
Right.
way to interact, even though they're not the front line.
Right.
And I heard this story that has to do, I believe, with President Bush. He went to the space shuttle. He went to observe, saw a man standing there with a broom, and something magnificent was going to happen that day. And he looked at this man, it was a janitor, and he said, "What do you do here, sir?" And the guy said, "I'm sending somebody to the moon."
Awesome.
And he took such pride in his job,
Yeah.
because what he did was going to affect the next one, ultimately the person who was going to the moon.
Right.
And it's up to the leaders and to instill in the people who are behind the scenes that what you do is just as important
Absolutely.
as the people who are on the front line. If you can have an entire team of people that have that same heart, then it's magic.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, if we don't have a great product, people aren't going to come back. We can sell it with sizzle and make people feel great, but
Yeah.
then when the meal comes out, it's just
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah.
It's like, well, okay,
Yeah.
not doing that again.
No,
So every piece of it is so critically important, and you're so right. That's a great example though.
Yeah.
Sending a man to the moon, I love that.
They were going to
boy.
make a movie about the life of Stan Clark. What would the title be?
Oh my gosh,
You
I
should
don't
give me
know.
these questions ahead of time.
You're sending me on some fun little space odysseys here.
Or if you can't do a movie, then a book. If they're writing a book about your life, what's the title? If you're writing a book, what is the title?
Well, I think you gave it to me in the intro. I guess it'd just be the Minister of Fun.
I don't know anybody else who's called that. You're the only person that I've heard that is called that.
I've never heard myself called that, so I don't know where you got it, but I like it.
Do you know who I would liken you to as far as another entrepreneur who's an amazing entrepreneur who's had some ups and downs, but is very, very well known for being a minister of fun?
No.
Richard Branson.
Oh gosh.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, he's really gone a lot farther than I.
He's a different country. But he has the same attitude that you do. Why do it if you can't enjoy it?
Yeah.
What's the point? Why slave for 20 hours a day to make money if you're not enjoying the process and impacting people's lives?
Yeah. Well, that's probably our proudest legacy right there. Is how many young people have worked at Eskimo Joe's over the last 45 years, and when they come back to Stillwater, and they're come back for a football game in the fall, or they're back for our anniversary celebration in the summer, and they talk about what a great job it was and how much they learned, and that's our proudest
Yeah.
legacy, without a doubt. It's
Yeah.
just we've touched so many lives, and so I do take a tremendous amount of pride in that. We had our annual management leadership meeting this past Monday, just 2 days ago, and one of the questions that one of the team members asked was, oh gosh, how did they couch it? Anyway, what gets you up in the morning, and what drives you after all these years? And I wasn't playing to the crowd at all. I looked out there and I said, it's all of you guys. Because you guys are the ones that's making all this work, and in my opinion, I work for all of you.
That's good.
It's my job to give you opportunity, to provide you the resources, and all of you are there to support that person that at the end of the day, at the top of our org chart as we see it, that's interacting with a retail customer, with the promotional products client. And everybody works for that,
Yeah.
and that's what it's about.
That's not
And-
normal, though. You know that. There are so many companies that aren't run like that.
And there's so many companies that have to make quarterly numbers and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't make any sense at all. It's all about the long term. Nothing. We never want to cut a corner. Never want to make a decision for the short term. It
Yeah.
just doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't build a brand. That's for sure.
Why aren't you teaching a class at OSU?
I don't know.
You should be.
It might be fun.
Yeah, you should be. So I'm going to end. First of all, thank you so much for being here. What an honor to have you. It's humbling that you would take this many hours and come to be with us
You're so kind.
on your birthday.
I promise you, this is my joy. It has been an absolute delight.
Thank you so much. This is going to go to the top of my favorite podcast, unless somebody else that I've interviewed is listening. Then it's like right up there in the top four.
That is so Jill Donovan. I love it.
What is your word for the year? Please tell me you picked a word for this year.
My word for this year and every year is enthusiasm.
That's so great. Did I not start off the podcast by saying that your photo in the dictionary is next to the word enthusiasm?
Well, you honor me with that. I
It's
love it.
contagious, though. It really is contagious. How could you have a bad day, or how could you be down about something when you're around Stan Clark? Yesterday, I had a meeting with all of my team, and I said, a watch pot never boils, meaning, which I know you know what that means, but if you're focusing on something that is really troublesome to you at the moment, and you're looking at it for it to change, it's not going to change while you're looking at it.
Right.
And so I told them, go for a walk. Go do something to get your mind off of that, because no way do things change when you're staring at it.
Yeah.
And if they eventually do, what a large amount of time you've wasted staring at it. If you're staring at something, waiting for it to change, go spend time with Stan Clark, because there's no way your mind can drift back to that thing that is troubling you when somebody is with you.
That's so kind. Thank you.
So thank you so much. I prepared something to end this with, something I practiced all morning, and I'm not joking you. It is a birthday song that each year I pick a new hobby, and this year I picked the saxophone. I've never played the saxophone. Have you? You do music? No.
I play guitar, but barely.
This was the time where you could have made it up and said you played sax, and I would never have known. But I learned this instrument. I'm going to play Happy Birthday for you on this instrument.
I love it.
Okay, hold on just a second. Okay. Here we go. This is an electronic saxophone, which it'd be super fun if you learned how to do it, because then we could start a band together. The funny thing is, I know you might actually consider that. Okay, here we go. You come back again?
I would be honored.
I want to be your third podcast. Thank you for being with us today. We will see you next time on CEO-ish. And that's a wrap. Yay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.